right, guys, so have you ever walked in a bike shop and you see two bikes and you wonder what the heck is going on? Why should I buy a Cutthroat versus the Checkpoint, right? So we got our man here, Egan.
How's it going?
Bikes. Egan's actually, you built your own bikes, right?
I built a couple bikes now, yeah.
So what better person to talk? Like, how many bikes have you built?
I'm on 4 frames now.
So no better person to tell us about. We're gonna try to figure out what the difference is when you walk in the shop. Maybe you might be shy. You don't want to ask the questions, right? Some people don't want to ask the questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we're gonna try to give you the information you need so that you can walk in the shop a little bit more confident. All right, Egan. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so here we got the Salsa Cutthroat and the Trek Checkpoint. Got both kind of the carbon frames, kind of generally fairly similar component spec to them, but wanted to give you a kind of quick rundown of some of the differences in the kind of feel of the bikes. What I'm looking for how a bike's gonna ride and kind of the differences between that. But kind of the big one with gravel is, how stable you're gonna be, how the steering's gonna feel, how efficient you're gonna ride. And one of the big ones that you'll see with these bikes is, first two things I'm looking at are the head tube angle of them. So you got on the Cutthroat a fairly slack head tube angle, so your fork is leaned out further on the bike, where the Trek Checkpoint tends to be a little bit steeper than the Cutthroat is. Not say as steep as your road bike would be, but steeper. So generally the differences you'll feel are a snappier, more kind of quicker feel on the steering with the Checkpoint, and a slower, more stable, easy ride on the Cutthroat with that slacker head tube.
And let me chime in, and I can agree on that. I own both of these bikes.
Yep.
So I think so far that makes sense. It definitely makes sense how you're explaining it.
Yeah, the other thing I'm looking for on gravel especially is the chainstay length. So the Cutthroat has a fairly long chainstay, where the Checkpoint, like I said, it's still... Go for it.
One thing I just noticed.
Yeah.
When did they start doing this?
So
the Cutthroat's coming with
the T-type transmission axis on the Cutthroat in the newest generation here. So this build's got your GX transmission, and super stable and super hard hitting. If you're running into anything uphill and you just want the bike to shift, it's gonna make that shift for you.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. This is the UDH.
Yep, you get that huge
transmission.
1052 cassette back there, so you got plenty of range in the drivetrain, so you're not worrying about that hill looks terrible, I'm just gonna ride nice and slow up it. Makes your life a whole lot easier. But yeah, as far as the chainstays themselves go.
What's that?
Yeah, chainstay is gonna be your measurement from your bottom bracket to the rear wheel. The Checkpoint's got a slightly shorter chainstay than the Cutthroat does. Not as short as, say, a road bike is, but getting a longer chainstay is gonna make it so that your whole bike ends up riding in a more stable ride, where the shorter chainstay tends to be a little bit more nimble, a little bit quicker feeling in that back end, and just giving you a little bit snappier of a feel. So with the Cutthroat, with that kind of slacker head tube, longer chainstay, your overall feel is just going to be more relaxed, easy ride, comfortable feeling. Checkpoint, still fairly comfortable ride, easy going, but going to be more of a faster weapon than the Cutthroat will be, just with those two things in mind. There's definitely some other things we can look at, how tall things are, total lengths of things, but those are the two that are really going to dictate how the bike feels pretty easily.
Now, if somebody wants to feel more upright, does that also factor into like these two bikes here?
Yep, it definitely can. That's kind of the third thing I'm looking for with the bikes. And it's going to be more of the comfort side of things, not necessarily the feel of the ride, which, you know, that's what your head tube angle and chainstay length tend to do. The what's called either axle to crown and head tube length, or just your total stack here, is going to kind of dictate how upright you're feeling on the bike. So the checkpoint tends to be slightly shorter than the cutthroat is in that regard. So you get a bit taller feeling ride on the cutthroat, keeping you a little bit more upright, alert towards what's coming up to you. Where the checkpoint, you're a little bit more down, aggressive, designed for that speed.
You dial in, and you just can't through the wind.
You're just going, yeah.
So how do they achieve the? What was this measurement again? The crown?
Stack. So
stack.
yeah, so stack is going to be the combination of everything going on here. But the axle to crown is going to be basically the length of your fork. So center of your axle here, all the way up to the top where the fork meets the head tube. Then you got your head tube, and then you got a little bit extra of fork length here just to give you a little bit more on top of that. That's going to be generally about where you'll feel that height difference or the total stack difference.
So you say that the fork on this guy would be a little bit longer than what you find on,
most definitely.
On the checkpoint?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's going to be, you know, one of the things that can really kind of gets that cutthroat into that more comfortable feel. These head tube lengths are fairly comparable between the two. You know, maybe
just
a 10 millimeter difference. It's the fork that's going to be significantly different.
Because just looking at them, I could tell. I don't know. I'll zoom back, guys, but I could tell that this guy is shorter. Yep. Right off the get.
Yeah. If you look at the wheels here, the tire is kind of deceptive, but if you're looking from wheel to rim itself, they're going to be exactly the same on both two bikes.
Yeah.
But if you look at the gap between the rim and the fork on the checkpoint here, you got a fairly small distance. If you look at the difference between the rim and the cutthroat, you got a pretty big difference there. So, you know, overall, that's getting you up fairly high on that bike.
So basically, that's why you just can't grab any fork from a cutthroat and
no, it's definitely going to change how the bike feels.
Do they have a limit to, for example, how long of a fork you can go with on this guy?
You know, there's definitely some things that are limiting you on that. Could you put a cutthroat fork on a checkpoint? Yeah, you could. Yeah. The things that you'll see that are more limiting tend to be when you switch to a suspension fork. So if you do sometimes a longer suspension fork, your tire can get pretty close to the wheel, but the biggest worry is, you know, changing the geometry significantly. So if you're going for a significantly longer fork than what's on that, it brings the whole kind of front end of the bike up. So you're getting a slacker head tube, you're getting a further back seat tube. It definitely changes how the bike runs. You know, the cool thing about the cutthroat is it's designed around a 100 millimeter suspension fork. It's about the same axle to crown as what's on here. So you can swap it out with something that's going to give you more travel, more capability.
Without like really messing up
without messing with your geometry, exactly.
That's pretty cool. Cool. Well, Egan, thank you very much for talking to us.
Of course.
I think we're all smarter this afternoon, just learning more about. I've always just wondered what the difference is and what ride quality brings in there. So, all right. Thanks, Egan.
Thank you very much, Aria.